Hi, good afternoon. Again, I'm AJ Gundaya from RDO 29, Tondo San Nicolas, and I'll be discussing with you the submission of the attachments to the audited financial statements up to the income tax return, including the audited financial statements and other attachments. So I'll just be sharing my screen po. So bago tayo mag-proceed, sino nga ba ang required na magpasa ng kanilang duly filed annual income tax return sa BIR? So taxpayers who electronically filed either via EFPS or EBR forms without any required attachment need not submit printed copies of electronically filed tax returns to the LTS or the RDO. So kung kayo po ay nag-file electronically, either EFPS at EBR forms at wala kayong kahit anong attachment sa inyong annual ITR, hindi nyo na po kailangan magpasa ng printed copy ng inyong ITR sa BIR. The mere fact that you already filed electronically and you have received either the filing reference number for EFPS users or the email confirmation receipt for EBR form users, that will suffice as proof of you having already filed your annual ITR. Tapos na, wala na kayong kailangan gawin. Conversely, taxpayers with any of the following attachments to their annual ITR are required to submit to the BIR together with the ITR itself and the proof of filing. So it's either FRN or email notification, as well as proof of payment of any tax due. Itong mga susunod na attachment. Again, kung ikaw ay nag-file na inyong annual ITR at meron ka nitong mga sumusunod na attachment sa inyong AITR, kailangan mong ipa-receive sa BIR ang iyong AITR at ang mga attachment nito. So una, kung ang iyong ITR ay merong kasamang complete set ng financial statements. Ano ba ang ibig sabihin ng complete set of financial statements? Dapat meron siyang CPA certificate if the gross annual sales, earnings, receipts, or output exceeds 3 million pesos for the year. Kung ito ay merong account information form or the financial statements themselves, including the prescribed schedules if audited. Now, if audited, kailangan comparative yung financial statements. And also, financial statements will not be complete if there is no statement of management responsibility for the annual ITR. Again, a complete set of financial statements must have the CPA certificate if the gross exceeds 3 million pesos for the year, the financial statements themselves, including the prescribed schedules, and it must be comparative if it is audited. Also required is the statement of management responsibility for the annual income tax return. Required din magpasa ng kanilang annual ITR with attachments kung sila ay required magpasa ng Form 1709. Form 1709 is the information return on transactions with related parties. So sino ba mga required magpasa ng Form 1709? These are large taxpayers, taxpayers enjoying tax incentives, so either BOI, or any tax incentive scheme kung sila ay income tax holiday or preferential income tax rate. As long as they're enjoying tax incentives, they're required to file Form 1709. Kasama din dyan yung mga taxpayers who are reporting net operating losses for the current taxable year and preceding 2 years. So kung tong taon na to, net loss ka, and then 2 years back, net loss ka pa din, so 3 taon ka ng sunod-sunod na net loss, you are required to submit BIR Form 1709. Kung ikaw din naman ay related party nung unang tatlo, so as defined in the regulation governing Form 1709, if you are a related party of a large taxpayer, of a taxpayer enjoying tax incentive, or a taxpayer who is operating net loss for this year and the preceding 2 years, you are required likewise to attach to your ITR BIR Form 1709. Likewise required to submit their AITR sa BIR if they are claiming tax credits. So this includes BIR Form 2307, so creditable tax withheld at source. Those claiming BIR Form 2306, so final tax withheld at source. Those claiming tax credit for using BIR Form 2316, compensation with or without tax. Those claiming tax credits from using BIR Form 1606. those who are claiming tax credits from other countries, and any other tax credits that the taxpayer may have. Kung meron kang kiniklaim as tax credit pang-awas sa iyong tax due, kailangan mong i-attach yun sa iyong annual ITR, and therefore yung iyong annual ITR kailangan mong ipasa sa BIR. So kasama din dyan yung mga merong other attachments. Ano ba yung mga other attachments? This is our catch-all provision. So this includes those who have BIR Form 2304. So sino yung 2304? Ito yung mga may payments that are not subjected to withholding taxes. So this could include if you're enjoying tax exemption. For example, if you're a Bambi, so you're exempted from income tax. Consequently, any payments made to you is exempted from withholding taxes. This is as provided for in R 11/2018, and therefore any payments to you is not subject to withholding tax. So instead na 2306 or 2307 ang i-issue sa'yo, since wala kang withholding, 2304 ang pwede mong hingin sa iyong payor. Kasama din is yung nag-claim na mayroong tax debit memo. Those who are claiming prior year success credits. So for this year, for last year, for example, negative ka, so overpayment. So for this year, yung overpayment mo for last year, you're going to claim it as a credit for this year. So your prior year success credits, kailangan mo ng supporting document dyan. So i-attach mo yung previous year's ITR mo sa iyong current annual ITR. Therefore, kailangan mong ipasa sa BIR yung iyong annual ITR for this year. It also includes those who are filing an amended return. Kasi kung nag-file ka ng amended return, required attachment doon is yung original mong final. Kasama din kung meron kang binayaran sa una mong final na return. So if you're filing an amended return, you need to attach to your amended annual ITR your originally filed income tax return as well as any proof of payment of taxes due dun sa original ITR mo, ipapasa mo sa BIR. Kailangan mo rin ipasa yung iyong annual ITR kung meron kang proof of e-submission of SOUT. So ano ba yung SOUT? Ito is yung kung meron nagkakata sa'yo na 2307, you need to report that using the SOUT at ipasa yon through e-submission. Now, the proof of the e-submission of the SOUT should form part as well as of your attachments to your annual ITR. And others, kung ano pa yung fill ninyo would result in the accurate and correct computation of your annual income tax due for this year, i-attach nyo yun sa inyong ITR. But syempre, dahil magkakaroon kayo ng attachment, the annual ITR itself, along with the attachment, must be submitted to the BIR. So again, let's recap. Those who filed electronically, either EFPS or EBIR forms, without any attachment, need not submit their ITR to the BIR. You receiving the filing reference number for EFPS and the email confirmation receipt for EBIR forms shall suffice as proof of having submitted to the BIR. Kung meron ka namang kahit anong attachment sa iyong ITR, financial statements, tax credits, or whatever, kailangan mong ipa-receive yung iyong attachment, saka syempre yung annual ITR sa BIR. So i-emphasize ko lang dito po kasi sa ating Revenue Regulation 16-2021, as clarified by RMC, Revenue Memorandum Circular 117-2021, provides that in lieu of the submission of hard copies of Form 2307 as an attachment to SOUT for claiming of tax credits, as well as Form 2316, 2304, and 2306, only electronic submission via DVD-R, USB, or online via the EIFS will be allowed. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Sa Tagalog, kung ikaw ay nakiklaim ng tax credit, either Form 2307, or 2306, or 2304, 2316, hindi nyo na pwedeng i-attach yung hard copy sa inyong ITR. Ang tatanggapin na lang po namin is nakasave either sa DVD-R or sa USB, or pwede nyo siyang ipasa using the EIFS. Of course, this does not apply to those who are not required to electronically file their ITR. So kung ikaw ay senior citizen, PWD, or an employee filing who's earning pure compensation income, so Form 1700 ang iyong ipa-file, hindi ka covered ditong provision na to, and therefore, you can still attach your 2307 or tax credit certificate for that matter in hard copy. But for everybody else na hindi senior citizen, hindi PWD, hindi compensation income earner filing Form 1700. For everybody else, we will no longer accept the submission of the hard copy of the 2307, 2316, 2304, or 2306. Ang tatanggapin lang po namin is the electronic copy which is saved either sa DVD-R or sa USB at ipapasa ninyo kasama ninyong ITR sa BIR or submitted online via the EAFS. Now, consequently po, again, i-emphasize ko lang ha, submission of hard copies, except do sa tatlong minention ko, as an attachment to the AITR for purposes of claiming tax credits will not be allowed. I hope we're clear with that. Now, yung pong rule na yon, yung hindi na kami tatanggap ng hard copy ng 2307, 2306, 2304, or 2316, hindi lang po applicable yan sa annual ITR. Applicable din po yan sa quarterly ITR, Form 1702Q and 1701Q. Applicable din yan kung ikaw ay nagpa-file ng VAT return, so you're a VAT registered taxpayer using Form 2550Q. You are a non-VAT taxpayer filing Form 2551Q. You're filing Form 2553 or any other tax return wherein you are claiming tax credits. If you're claiming tax credits, kahit anong tax credit form pa yan, 2304, 2306, 2307, or 2316, except dun sa tatlong minention ko, hindi na po namin tatanggapin ng hard copy. Dapat po naka-CD, naka-DVD-R or USB. Now, kailan ba ang deadline ng pagpapasa ng inyong annual income tax return with attachment sa BIR? Let's be clear, iba po ang deadline ng pag-file ng annual ITR sa deadline ng pagpasa ng annual ITR and attachment sa BIR. Ang deadline po natin for this year ng filing ng inyong annual ITR is on April 15. Now, the deadline for submission of your duly filed annual income tax return with attachment will be as follows. Now, the deadline of submission of duly filed AITR with attachments for taxpayers who filed electronically, either via EFPS or EBIR forms, regardless if with or without tax due, is 15 days after the deadline for filing of the ITR or the date of actual filing, whichever comes later. Again, for those who filed electronically using either EFPS or EBIR forms, with or without tax due, the deadline for submission of the AITR with attachments shall be 15 days from the deadline of the filing of the ITR or the date of actual filing, whichever comes later. For taxpayers naman who filed manually, so hindi nag-EFPS, hindi nag-EBIR forms, okay? Regardless if with or without tax due, the attachment shall be submitted at the same time as the annual income tax return. We have an advisory that was released which specifically mentioned there that taxpayers must file electronically except, may exemption na nilagay po doon, except those who are senior citizens who will be filing for their own, for PWDs, as well as for those employees who are earning pure compensation income, therefore they'll be filing Form 1700. For everybody else, electronic filing dapat sila. Yun pong tatlo na allowed mag-manually file, kung meron silang attachment sa kanilang annual income tax return, it must be submitted together with the filing of their ITR. So medyo magulo. I-visualize nga natin. Example, well actually this is not an example. The deadline itself is actually on the 15th of April. But for our illustration, the deadline is on April 15. The actual filing of the ITR by our taxpayer is on April 4. Kung ikaw ay electronic filer, April 30 ang deadline ng pagpasa ng iyong AITR with attachment sa BIR. Plus 15 days kasi electronic filer ka. Kung ikaw naman ay manual filer, ang deadline ng pagpasa ng attachment sa iyong AITR is on April 4, kasabay ng pag-file mo ng iyong income tax return. For example, deadline is April 15, actual filing is on April 19. April 15 ka ang deadline, April 19 ka nag-file ng iyong ITR. Kung ikaw ay electronic filer, the deadline for submission of your audited financial statements and other attachment to the AITR is on May 4 kasi 15 days from April 19. Kung ikaw ay manual filer naman, the deadline is on April 19 kasabay ng pag-file mo ng iyong annual income tax return. I would like to point out, however, that in our second scenario, dahil ang date of actual filing niya is April 19, late na siya and therefore subject to penalties on late filing of the annual income tax return. However, ang pinag-uusapan natin dito na urong yung deadline is on the submission of the audited financial statements and other attachment to the annual ITR. Kahit sa scenario number 2 natin, late na siya for filing the AITR, kung nagpasa siya ng kanyang attachment within 15 days sa electronic filer, pasok pa rin siya, wala pang penalty. So meron siya hanggang May 4 para ipasa yung attachment niya. But for manual filer, kasabay ng annual ITR ang kanilang attachment and therefore April 19 din ang deadline. Now, paano ba magpapasa sa BIR ng AITR with attachments? So, dalawa ang pagpasa natin. It's either ipasa nyo yung hard copies. So, pwede nyong ipasa yan sa BIR filing centers until April 15, the deadline. Or sa mga revenue collection officers or sa collection section of the RDOs up until April 16 onwards. For manual filers without tax due and electronic filers with or without tax due. So again, for manual filers without tax due and electronic filers with or without tax due, they may submit the hard copies of their annual ITR with attachments from up to April 15 sa BIR filing centers, April 16 onwards sa ating mga RDOs. Pwede din naman sa RCOs, sa Revenue Collection Officers, and sa mga AABs kung kayo ay manual filer with tax due. Now, bukod sa manual or hard copy, meron din tayong electronic submission. Electronic submission may be made via the EAFS. So, anong katunayan? What shall serve as proof ng pag-submit ninyo ng inyong AITR with attachment sa BIR? For those who decide to submit the hard copies, tatatakan manually ng receive sa inyong AITR, Annual Income Tax Return for manual filers without tax due, or dun sa FRN, print out ng filing reference number and the email confirmation for electronic filers. Again, tatatakan ng receive yung AITR kung manual filer without tax due, or the FRN or email confirmation kung electronic filer. So kung kayo po ay nag-file using EFPS or EBIR forms, ang tatatakan lang po namin is yung printout ng filing reference number and email confirmation. Hindi po namin tatatakan yung printout ng inyong ITR. Okay po, wag na po natin ipilit. Hindi po namin tatatakan yun. Ang tatatakan namin is only the proof of electronic submission. Of electronic filing rather. Tatatakan din namin kung meron kayong financial statements, the balance sheet, the income statement, and the audit certificate. Yun lang po ang tatatakan namin sa inyong financial statements. Hindi namin tatatakan yung statement of cash flow, of owner's equity, yung notes, yung SMR, hindi po. Ang tatatakan lang namin is the balance sheet, income statement, and the audit certificate. Tatlong sets ang pwede nyong ipasa. Dalawa para sa amin sa BIR, at isa yung set na tatatakan namin ng receive, yung po yung proof ng submission ninyo sa BIR. Para sa mga non-individual taxpayers naman natin, pwede sila magpadagdag ng additional 2 sets na gagamitin nila for their other compliance. For electronic submission naman po, they can make that via the EAFS, wherein the system-generated transaction reference number sent to the enrolled email address shall serve as proof of submission by the taxpayer. So kanina pa natin sinasabi yung EAFS. So ano nga ba si EAFS? Okay, now the EAFS is an additional option aside from physically submitting your ITR or AFS to the BIR. The traditional way was a challenge during the pandemic, so we developed the EAFS to provide a safer and faster option in the submission of your AITR and attachments to the BIR. Submissions made using the EAFS is just like making it in person. So, sino bang pwedeng gumamit ng EAFS? Kung ikaw ay taxpayer na required magpasa ng hard copies ng inyong annual income tax return with attachments sa BIR, pwede mo rin gamitin yung EAFS. Pwede rin itong gamitin ng mga taxpayer na gumagamit ng calendar year and fiscal year accounting periods. It can also be used in the submission of quarterly ITR attachments. So, paano ba gamitin si EAFS? Sa BIR website, makikita po natin si EAFS. So, click natin yung EAFS icon. The EAFS can be accessed through any browser of any device that has stable internet and access to the files. Ito po yung the EAFS, tawag po namin dyan, it's platform agnostic. Ibig sabihin, kahit paano mo siya gustong buksan, pwede. Pwedeng sa laptop, pwedeng sa tablet, pwedeng sa desktop, pwede kahit sa phone. Basta meron kang internet na mabilis at kaya mong i-access yung file na i-upload mo sa EAFS, pwede mong gamitin si EAFS. So, paano ba gamitin si EAFS? So, kung wala pa rin kayong account sa EAFS, gawin ninyo, pag-click ninyo ng EAFS icon sa BIR website, dadali niya kayo sa EAFS login page. So, click natin yung not registered, and then lalabas yung account registration form. So, fill outan natin lahat ng form, hindi po pwedeng may bakante. So, mga reminders lang. So, the TIN can only be enrolled once. Okay po. So, kung kayo ay wala pang account sa EAFS, once nyo lang pwedeng gamitin yung TIN ninyo sa pag-enroll sa EAFS. However, the TIN of your taxpayer representative may be enrolled multiple times. So, kung may accountant na magpa-file para sa inyo or gagawa ng EAFS account para sa inyo, or kayo ay practicing accountant, pwede nyong gamitin yung inyong TIN as many times as kung gaano man kadami yung enrollment na gagawin ninyo para sa inyong mga kliyente. However, kung kayo ay gagawa ng EAFS account para sa inyong sarili, so doon kayo sa taxpayer information side mag-fill out, once nyo lang pwedeng gamitin yung inyong TIN. Likewise, email addresses can only be enrolled once, either as a company TIN or a taxpayer's representative's TIN. So, kung kayo ay, for example nga, ay accountant, gagawa kayo ng EAFS para sa inyong mga kliyente. Kung ilang kliyente ninyo ang inyong gagawa ng EAFS account, ganun karaming email address ang dapat ninyong gamitin. Hindi po pwedeng mag-recycle ng email address sa EAFS. Kung kayo naman ay gagawa ng EAFS account para sa inyong sarili, wala kayo accountant, kayo mismo ang gagawa ng EAFS account ninyo, yung pong information na fill outan ninyo sa taxpayer information, copy nyo lang po sa authorized tax agent's representative's details. Hindi po pwede kasi may bakante, kaya kung ano yung file, kung ano yung information na nilagay ninyo sa taxpayer information, yun din po yung ilalagay ninyo sa authorized tax agent or representative. Now, i-enroll nyo rin po yung inyong preferred username. Sasabihin po ni system if your preferred username is no longer available, so you will be asked to provide a different username. For password naman po, we provided password policies to help guide you in selecting an appropriate password for the EAFS. Pag na-fill outan nyo na lahat, click nyo yung submit. Lalabas po si statement of undertaking. Click accept. And then may lalabas po, may matatanggap kayong email sa inyong enrolled email address. Nakasulat doon. Click here. This is your email activation link. Press click here within 72 hours. Dadali niya kayo, sasabihin niya na kayo ay meron ng successfully created ang inyong EAFS account. Pwede na kayong mag-login at gamitin si EAFS. So, paano ba gamitin si EAFS? Again, sa EAFS login page, provide your username and password and click login. Lalabas ang inyong dashboard. On the right side of on the left pane of your dashboard, click file upload. Now, sa pagpasa po ng EAFS, meron pong limang fields na pwede nyong ipasa. Meron yung para sa inyong ITR, para sa inyong audited financial statements, Form 1709, others, and tax credits. So, ito yung nilagay namin. Ito yung mga upload box na paglalagyan ninyo ng inyong mga files. Isang upload box para sa annual ITR, isang upload box para sa audited financial statements, isang upload box para sa Form 1709 and its attachments, tatlo para sa tax credit, and isa para sa others. Kung kayo ay nauuntian, take note po na each of these input boxes can accommodate up to 4.8 gigabyte of file. Ang equivalent po ng 4.8 gigabyte is around 10,000 pages. So unless meron kang more than 10,000 pages na ITR, AFS, Form 1709, kayang-kaya po ni system na tanggapin yung inyong submission for each of this upload box. Tapos meron pa kaming tatlong pre-provide para sa tax credit. Ibig sabihin, unless more than 30,000 pages yung tax credits na meron ka, kayang-kayang i-accommodate ni EAFS yung iyong submission. Now, just in case, now these are for our large taxpayers because most likely sila yung maraming tax credit na i-claim. If their submission is more than 30,000 pages, all they have to do is to submit another one using the EAFS. Now, sa pagpasa po sa EAFS, para makapagpasa tayo, we have to first select the applicable period. So, quarterly ba or annual yung ipapasa natin? Piliin natin yung month end na applicable at piliin natin yung taon kung kailan tayo magpa-file. Once na ginawa po natin ito, the system will automatically provide the required file names for each of the file types that you will be submitting. Hindi nyo na kailangang isipin pa kung ano ba yung naming convention na kailangan yung gawin. Ang gagawin lang po natin, i-copy natin at i-paste yung required file names using the naming convention that is prescribed by the EAFS at i-paste natin dun sa file na i-upload natin sa EAFS. Now, take note po that filing using any submission using the EAFS, dapat po yung file is in PDF. Hindi po pwedeng JPEG, hindi pwedeng photo, hindi pwedeng Excel, hindi pwedeng Word. Dapat po PDF file yung isasubmit natin sa EAFS. Now, once you have selected all the files that you're going to submit, click po natin yung submit. However, before you do so, a reminder, once you uploaded files into the BAR, warn ka niya, you will no longer be able to view the files you submitted through the EAFS. Of course, meron kang copy ng mga files mo. Pero yung pinasa mo sa EAFS mismo, hindi mo na makikita. It will be already encrypted and kami lang po sa BAR makakakita nito. Once you uploaded it, click submit. May lalabas ulit na statement of undertaking, click accept. And then may lalabas na notification, all files successfully uploaded. You may take a screenshot of this as proof na nakapag-submit ka na nga sa EAFS. However, aside from dito, meron ka rin matatanggap na email na sinasabi that the files that you have submitted, either valid or invalid, has been successfully uploaded into the BAR. Sasabihin niya rin yung transaction code, date and time kung kailan ka nagpasa, as well as the company PIN. Ito yung proof na nakapagpasa ka na nga sa EAFS. And you're done. Yung pagpapasa mo, safe and comfortable, you can do that from the safety and convenience of your office or at home. Tapos napakasimple pa ng user interface sa paggamit ng EAFS para madali siyang itindihin at madali siyang gamitin. Na kung gusto mong makita yung mga pinasa mo sa EAFS, balik ka sa dashboard mo and then click Transactions. So dito, makikita mo lahat ng submission na ginawa mo. Diba kanina, meron na akong pinascreenshot sa inyo na notification from EAFS na nakapagpasa ka na nga. Tapos meron ka pang matatanggap na email. Tapos pwede mo rin tingnan within the EAFS kung ano yung mga pinasa mo. Kaya sigurado na kapag nakapagpasa ka successfully sa EAFS, meron kang proof ng mga submission mo. Now, lahat ng submission mo, you can filter that by either selecting the upload date or encoding the transaction code or the remarks. Pag in-input mo, you can filter kung ano yung gusto mong makitang submission sa EAFS. You can then click the action icon para mabuksan kung ano yung pinasa mo sa EAFS. Now, when you click the action icon, you can only see the file names for each and every submission that you made. Hindi mo makikita yung actual file kasi sabi ko nga, it is already encrypted and can only be viewed by the BIR. Of course, meron ka namang soft copy nung pinasa mo na sarili mo or may hard copy ka kung in-scan mo yon. Just the same, any submission using the EAFS, encrypted siya. So makikita mo lang kung kailan ka nagpasa at ano yung file name ng pinasa mo. Pero yung actual na file, encrypted yon, kami lang sa BIR ang makakakita. Now, hard copies of files submitted via EAFS are to be kept consistent with relevant issuances and presented upon request. So, ang tanong, kailangan nyo pa bang pumunta sa BIR para magpatatak na inyong annual ITR with attachments after using the EAFS? The answer is no. There's no need to go to the BIR to have the ITR AFS stamped after using the EAFS. The email with the transaction reference number shall suffice as proof of submission. Para sa mga non-individual taxpayers natin, there's also no need to have 2 extra copies submitted to the BIR for SEC purposes. The email shall also serve for this purpose. So, ito, reminder lang, although we discussed this already kanina for RR 16-2016 and RMC 117-2021 with regards to the submission of the hard copies of Form 2307, 2316, 2304, and 2306. Sabi ko nga kanina, it will no longer be allowed. Dapat either nakastore sa DVD-R, USB, or submitted online via the EAFS. However, 16-2021 does not only apply to submission of attachment to SOUT for claim tax credit per RR2-2006, but also to submission of Form 2316 required by RR11-2013, both amended by RR2-2005. So sa RR11-2013 po kasi natin, na inamend si RR2-98, which in turn was amended by 2-2015, sinabi doon na in cases covered by substituted filing, the employer, this is for our employers po, the employer shall furnish each employee with the original copy of BIR Form 2316. And in lieu of the submission of hard copies, submission via DVD-R was provided. RR 11-2018 further amends it to require that only BIR Form 2316 of employees qualified for substituted filing shall be submitted by the employer with accompanying Annex F due for submission every February 28. For 2023, it was extended until March 31. So April 1 ang deadline. Yung pagpasa po ng Annex F with its accompanying sworn statement and the 2316 of the employees who are qualified for substituted filing, the deadline is now on April 1. Since March 31 falls on a Sunday, sabi po doon, ang pagpasa po ng 2316 dapat na either naka-DVD-R or USB lang or through EAFS. So for employers who will submit or who are yet to submit their Annex F ng mga employees who are qualified for substituted filing along with the corresponding Annex C or the sworn statement, and the 2316. The 2316 can only be submitted either electronically in DVD-R form or stored in DVD-R or USB or through the EAFS. So, paano ba gamitin si EAFS sa pagpasa ng 2316? Again, ang 2316 po tinutukoy ko dito para po sa mga employer na magsasubmit ng 2316 ng kanilang mga empleyado who are qualified for substituted filing. They may submit it using the EAFS or sa mga RDOs natin using DVD-R or USB. If they opt to use the EAFS instead, log in sa EAFS, click File Upload, So this time, dalawa lang ang uploadan nila. It's either others and yung tax credit. So sa tax credit, dito nila i-upload yung mga 2316 nung kanilang mga employees who are qualified for substituted filing. At dun sa others, dun nila ilalagay, i-upload yung Annex F and Annex C. In the remarks box, indicate their all relevant information that may help you easily identify the submissions that you are making. The system will accept all submission as long as it complies with the required file names, file types, and file size. So it is suggested that for easy reference, kung kayo ay magpapasa ng 2316, ihiwalay niyo yun sa pagpasa ng 2307. RMC 117-2021 provides that there is no need to submit via DVD-R or USB if already submitted via EAFS or vice versa. Now, personally, I would recommend the EAFS to submit Annex F and Annex C simply because challenge na ngayong maghanap ng DVD-R kung saan kayo bibili. Marami po kami naririnig na napakahirap daw maghanap, online na lang nakakabili, napakamahal pa ng DVD-R. Now, USB naman, parang masyado po yatang mahal para magpasa ng 2316, lalo na kung iilan lang naman yung empleyado ninyo na ipapasa sa BIR. So what we suggest, what I would personally recommend, is that we use the EAFS instead. Upload natin yung 2316 ng ating mga employees, upload natin yung Annex F, upload natin yung Annex C, all pa within the safety and convenience of your offices. Now, RMC 117-2021 also provides that once a mode of submission is selected, only one method shall be used in any given period. And that is the end of my slide. Thank you and keep safe.